Okay, part two. This is where we get into the real meat of your argument. I'm going to sort of splice together from your video what I consider to be a concise statement of your argument.
Examples I'm given are snowflakes or crystals, things that form in an orderly fashion, increasing in structure and complexity, or decreasing in entropy, all by themselves. Those things are happening in strict adherence, in complete accordance with these physical, natural laws, and we don't know their origin. We don't know why the physical laws apply. We simply have seen and been able to demonstrate scientifically that they do apply. So those things are of unknown origin. And everything that falls in the example of known origin has been done by us, humans. The application of intellect. And I don't know what other creatures have, but for us, the human intellect is able to perceive matter. It's able to manipulate matter. We're able to apply energy to it, and we can cause temporary and local decreases in entropy. Application of intellect for local, temporary decreases in entropy. Everything else is of unknown origin, so why in the world would I let someone tell me that most likely life came from non-life randomly for no particular reason, just good soup and some good lightning?
Okay. Your argument is basically this. You point out that life is a local, temporary exception to entropy. You then say that the only known source of a local exception to entropy is intelligence. We build clock radios, which are highly ordered things, just like us. Since intelligence is the only known source of a local exception to entropy, like a clock radio, intelligence must be the source of us. This argument is bogus on many different levels. First of all, the fact that X is the only known source for Y does not prove that X is the only source of Y. Absence of evidence for other sources is not evidence of absence of other sources. This is the same reason we can't prove that God doesn't really exist, or for that matter that Thor doesn't, or that there's not an invisible dragon living under your bed. The lack of evidence doesn't prove those things don't exist. So even if it was true that intelligence was the only known source of a local exception to entropy, it would not follow that intelligences are the only source. However, it's not true. There are plenty of other sources. You beg to differ, but that reasoning is also bogus. We are surrounded by local exceptions to entropy. Crystals, rivers, clouds. We live on a local exception, the Earth. All astronomical objects are local exceptions. Life creates exceptions all the time. Spiders spin webs, bees make honeycombs, worms dig holes, people make clock radios. But these things have a known source. Physics. The source of a snowflake is not unknown. We know what it's made of, we know how it's formed, its source is known. But no, you say, we don't know the source of the laws of physics themselves, therefore anything resulting from the laws of physics is of unknown origin. But that's not even really an argument, it's semantics. We can say that we know what causes stars, gravity. You say, but we don't know why the universe has gravity, therefore stars are of unknown origin. No, when we say we know what causes a star, we do. That knowledge is at a particular level of abstraction. We know exactly what forms stars without knowing exactly what forms gravity. But for the sake of argument, let's say your reasoning was valid. Let's say that if we don't know the source of the laws of physics, we can't say we know the source of anything that results from them. In that case, you can't say that intelligence is a known source for local exceptions of entropy. You can't say that intelligence is a known source for clock radios. In other words, if you're going to say that the source of a beehive is unknown, because the source of the physics that led to the evolution of bees is unknown, then by that same reasoning, the source of clock radios is unknown, because the source of the physics which led to the evolution of intelligence is unknown. It's also really begging the question. We're trying to distinguish between things of natural origin and things of supernatural origin, and your premise is that nothing can be of natural origin because we don't know the source of nature's laws.
Occam's razor, to the best of my understanding, says when you're forced to choose between offered explanations, none of them provable, then the simplest explanation is most likely to be correct.
Occam's razor will always select for a universe without gods. For instance, if you believe in the Christian God, you believe in a being who made us in his image, he interferes in human affairs, he answers prayers, you believe in places like heaven and hell, you believe in angels and the devil, so on and so forth. This is already an elaborate hypothesis. But as a theory of origins, that's only the tip of the iceberg. It requires a huge and complicated web of attendant rationalizations. Why did God make us so poorly? Why do we get sick? Why do we die? Why do we suffer? Well, God is punishing us for Adam's sin. Why does the fossil record and our very design suggest that we evolve? Well, if you're, say, a young Earth creationist, you would say that the fossil record is fake, the scientists are wrong, dinosaurs are conspiracy of the devil. If you're a complete whack job like Venom Fag X, you would say that God created the universe 6,000 years ago and planted light so that it would look like it had taken billions of years to get to us. Why would the creator of the universe do this? Well, because he works in mysterious ways. You're not really going to find many contexts where that is the simpler explanation. So, what if you're a smart guy like yourself? You're better able to understand science, but you still want to hold on to the God thing. Well, you push your rationalization back. For instance, you'll say, well, okay, maybe God didn't create us as we are, but he started off evolution. He created life from non-life. There was no abiogenesis. That was God. Or let's say you even allow that abiogenesis occurred, and you push your God rationalization further back. Okay, God didn't create us in his image. He didn't start evolution. That was all entirely natural, but it was the result of physical laws. Who created those laws? God did it. That's the simplest explanation. No, that is not the simplest explanation. What is a God? What gives him his powers? More importantly, where did he come from? Who created him? Super God? Who created Super God? At some point, you either have to say it infinitely regresses, or you say God always existed. Well, you can say that the laws of physics always existed and cut out the God thing entirely. And that's what Occam's razor directs us to do. God is an unnecessary element. It complicates the picture. That's the real reason most scientists don't concern themselves with God at all. It's just not something that comes up. Just as they don't concern themselves with the possibility that there's an invisible dragon living on the dark side of the moon. What you really have to ask yourself is, why are you proposing a God in the first place? What is a God? It's some kind of super being that has powers to do anything. But where did the notion of a God come from in the first place? Did we see one? No, the notion comes from human imagination. It is a fiction. Man has invented gods for tens of thousands of years. Think of how many hundreds of gods that you know about. Thor, Zeus, Athena, Ra, Osiris, Krishna, Vishnu, so on and so forth. What do they all have in common? They are all fictional characters. There's never been any other source of gods. So believing that they are real is kind of like believing that Harry Potter is real. Yet, lots of smart people believe in gods. There's actually been some interesting stuff published recently about why this is so, and the general conclusion is that smart people are good at rationalizing beliefs they arrive at for non-smart reasons, and I think you're a great example of that, which is the only reason I bothered with this response. Ultimately, the reason we cook up gods, the reason we invented these sort of human-like things with superpowers, is anthropomorphication of the universe. We're tool builders, so we imagine a universe built by a tool builder. We're social animals, so we see the universe as part of that social fabric. But there's really no evidence to support that. There's just not.